Okay, very good. Okay, well, welcome. I'll give a short introduction on AI academic entrepreneurship in Utrecht. I'm Mirko Lukacs. I'm a business developer and investment manager for the knowledge transfer office of Utrecht University and University Medical Center, and I'm specializing in digital innovations, in particular in areas such as e-health and e-learning. I personally have a career background in the ICT industry as a market analyst. I've also held positions in mass media, public television and radio. Since 2012, I'm working in Utrecht with researchers in particular software innovations. So Utrecht is a very vibrant place if you talk about AI, like also other cities are, like Amsterdam and Nijmegen. But I think what is very special about Utrecht is this multidisciplinary environment. So we do have a lot of human capital, of course. We do a lot of research and innovation. We have startups and scale-ups, you name it. But when we look at the researchers, we have researchers working on AI innovations and solutions in areas as education, healthcare, public services, financial services, energy, mobility, security, you name it. And what is very interesting to see is that there are a lot of crossovers in collaboration between, for example, different faculties, the faculty or Department of Computing Sciences and Social Sciences and the hospital. And in addition to that, we recently have also a ROM, an investment party in Utrecht, and we have organized a hub on AI in Utrecht, which is all collaborating with the National AI Coalition. And yeah, if you count it, we have all over the place. We have researchers. We easily have more than 100 researchers, PhDs, and professors doing some research related to AI. And maybe, as some of you may know, we also have already some AI labs. In particular, in practice, the National Police Lab, the AI and Mobility Lab, they are already in operation. And we also have the some in preparation, like the Sustainability Lab, Media Lab, Education Lab. Education, of course, is a very big topic in Utrecht. A lot is happening in the area of e-learning. And well, some new also coming up. By the way, do you see that my screen is switching, my slides, as I talk?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Just to check. In addition to that, we were part of the consortium of the thematic technology transfer AI, together with, by the way, Nijmegen, together with Amsterdam, and together with Eindhoven, TU Eindhoven. We've set up a consortium for a 8 million euro subsidy for TTT, which means that you get subsidy for technology transfer in the area of, in this case, AI, and an investment fund of 5 million euro to help bring startups to the market and to fund them. And this is a very broad coalition, so Utrecht is one of the lead players in this, but much of the schools for applied, universities of applied sciences, etc., are affiliated partners. And the whole idea is to use this ecosystem where this AI research is happening in all these cities, including Utrecht, to screen and scout really innovative entrepreneurial scientists who have new AI solutions, and help them to make the step to become a startup and to fund them. And the fund partner here is Lumo Labs from Eindhoven, that has quite a large fund to help AI startups.
Please click on keep breakout rooms open, otherwise we will all be sent to the main room. So
what should okay, yeah, that's not for me. Okay, so in Utrecht, the ecosystem is quite broad in terms of getting from research to market. We have Utrecht Holdings, that's where I'm working for, which is the knowledge transfer office, and we deal with IP and patents, and we help with spin-offs and spin-off investments. We have research support offices of Utrecht University and medical centers that help with grant support and collaboration agreements. And we have Utrecht Inc., which is our startup support incubator, providing a lot of validation programs, acceleration programs, pre-seed funding, and office space. I just want to give you two examples of exciting examples, I think, of digital startups we've had here in Utrecht that I actually have supported as a business developer and as an investment manager, because we've also invested in them. In the first place, that's in the area of education. It's a dialogue trainer. They have developed for students in medicine, students in veterinary, students in psychology, a serious game where you can practice professional communication, patient communication, for example, with a virtual character, as you can see here on the right side of the screen. You can have a dialogue with such a person, for example, a patient, and you get some fixed answer options, and you run through a full dialogue, and in the end, you get feedback of what you did well or where you could improve. And this is used for students in these areas at Utrecht University, but it is now also used in many other sectors, not only in education, but for example, it's also used by the Ministry of Justice for all the Dutch prisons to train their prison guards and how to communicate with their prisoners, for example. And a dialogue trainer is really investing in AI to improve their dialogue simulations, using thousands of playthroughs that they have with the users, the customers of the dialogue trainer solution. One of the very exciting examples is that they are now working on a new election advisor, stemwijzer in Dutch, together with the Free University in Amsterdam, for mentally impaired people, in such a way that you can ask open questions. So the serious game is now as such that you type in questions and you get prefixed answers. But this stemwijzer can also handle open questions to keep it very simple for mentally impaired people. And on the longer term, they're really investing in strategic improvement of open input, that you can really have this open conversation with a virtual character, and that it is much more flexible and adaptive in these and responsive in these simulations. So that's dialogue trainer. And another one is in the area of health and life sciences. We see a lot happening in the area of health with our university medical hospital, for example, in imaging. And here is a spin-off of Utrecht University and the hospital together, Core Life Analytics, who has a software solution for better data analytics for cell screening, which is a big practice every day in the hospital, but also for biotech laboratories. David Egan, in this case, is coming from the hospital, and Winand Onta was a PhD with computing sciences in Utrecht. And they have a solution that speeds up the cell screening enormously, dealing with enormous amounts of imaging data from the cell screening. And they are now trying to apply deep learning to cell screening analysis. And that basically is to better use image analysis of cells, how these cells develop. And to get to automatic reports that give biologists, laboratory employees a lot of insight. And interesting here is, and I think that's true for many startups and companies dealing with AI solutions, that it is very important to get access to good data, to good AI training data. So in this case, we can benefit from our multidisciplinary ecosystem in Utrecht, that we can work together with the hospital, for example. We also see crossovers between, for example, social sciences and computing sciences. So in Utrecht, we really want to facilitate also sharing data to develop AI solutions. So that gives you a very short introduction of the Utrecht AI ecosystem. If there's time for any questions, I can take them now.
Thanks, Mirko. I haven't seen any questions in the chat. Of course, if anyone wants to ask a question, you could post it in the chat, and I'll read them, and I'll wrap up after the talks. So if there are any questions, please write so in the chat, and otherwise we'll move on to the presentation of Han Hoogeveen. And if time allows, after his presentation, we can also answer questions that came up about Mirko's presentation. Thanks a lot, Mirko.
Okay.
And Han and Roel, good luck on your presentation.
Okay, thank you. I want to start sharing my screen, and I hope it works. Yes, it works. I'm not very familiar with Zoom. We always do everything here with Teams, but I hope it works. Welcome everybody. My name is Han Hoogeveen. I do this presentation together with Roel van den Broek. Roel van den Broek is working now at the NS mainly, and also he has a very small appointment with the UU. Roel did his PhD here, and he's going to say something about that later. I think I'll try to keep it short. So here's a very short agenda, but my main message will be, I want to give you an impression of what we are doing, and especially why it might be a good idea to collaborate with us, so that I want to gain your trust. Okay, we are working in the AI and Mobility Lab, but we are a group of researchers. We've been working on AI for a long time now, and we recently founded this lab to improve the collaboration, not only between the researchers working on AI here at our department, but also to make it easier to get in contact with companies, etc. We recently asked for the ICAI status, and we got it, and that's why I'm here, of course. And we're working, and that's one of our unique selling points, we're working within the Department of Computer Science. And that also means that we have a lot of students here who can help us. That's really a big advantage, to be honest. Okay, the goals of our lab, well, you can see them there, but I can just summarize it. Every researcher says it's great to do research, and I can add to it, it's great to do research on something that there are people who are interested in the outcome. So we want to work with companies. We really want to work on problems that are relevant for society. We want to do research. It simply means we don't want to do the standard things like just programming, etc. There should be a research component in it, but we would like to get in touch with society to solve problems that are relevant for companies. Okay, the people that are involved, we have 3 key researchers, but there are also many other researchers involved. Marjan van den Akker, she's the coordinator of the lab. Furthermore, Mehdi Dastani, he's the head of the, well, what we call the agent group. And there's my name here, Han Hogeveen. We have several PhD students. We have 5 students who are working what I consider to be the core of the mobility lab. There are more to come, but there are also people, PhD students working in other projects that are related to mobility. Okay, and also very important, just what I already mentioned, there are also students involved from computer science, and they're both in the bachelor and in the master. And I'm going to explain that a little later. The techniques that we apply, everybody says it's ICAI, but before that it was called operations research, agent-based simulation, data-driven approaches, and human-centered AI, but it all belongs to AI. These are well-established techniques that we know a lot about. At least we claim to know a lot about it. Okay, our main partners are the Dutch Railways, Qbus, the bus company that, for instance, takes care of the bus transport here in Utrecht, and ProRail. And you may wonder, oh, these are all companies that work in public transport. Well, if you're not in public transport, don't be afraid. It's not a prerequisite that you work in public transport. We have a focus on transportation and logistics. But if you want to transport a patient, for instance, within a hospital, you can also say that's transport. The problems are just the same, but well, then we have to deal with patients instead of parcels. But the principles remain the same. So everything within transport or something that is related to it or looks like it, we are interested in. Okay, some of our projects, and these are the projects on which PhD students are working. Planning at service locations at the Dutch railroads. Roel van den Broek is going to say something about that later. We have a project with Qbus, for instance, and this one in which I'm involved. We're trying to find the best plans for scheduling the buses so that you need fewer buses and get better service and also make it cheaper. So that's really something that's important for society. Next to that, we have the early warning for out-of-control situations in railway systems. This is a project that's funded by NWO together with NS and ProRail. And if something really goes wrong in the railway situation, how can we deal with it? How can we then still get it back to normal, get things going again? And also, there's a new project that's just going to start, multi-agent systems for ProRail. Okay, these are the PhD projects, but there are several ways to cooperate with us. You could, for instance, start with a PhD project. It lasts 4 years. Everybody in the company says 4 years, that's long. You shouldn't forget there that you get results within 4 years. You don't have to wait the full period of 4 years, of course. But then we have a real PhD students and you get the best, well, at least that we can offer for this amount of money. Next to it, we have the master thesis project. It lasts 8 months, and then a master student is going to do her thesis project at your company. And to just name a couple of PhD of master projects that I have guided the last couple of months. One was with Sanquin, that's a blood company, blood distribution. And there the problem was we should assign blood units to patients. How can we do that in the best way? And then this has to do with compatible bloods. Not every not every blood type can be transfused to every patient, etc. And there we have the standard A, B, and rhesus factor, but there are many more. And he did a great project there. And another PhD of another master thesis project was with RailForce-1, and there the student planned the way to make the planning for the trains. Okay, and the last part is what we call the software project. It lasts 5 months, but then you get a group of 10 students. They're in the bachelor phase, but at the end of the bachelor, and they're going to do a project for your firm, for instance. And I think Roel is also going to mention this. Here, they typically do something like prototyping. So if you have an idea, you want to have it work it out, but you don't want to hire a software firm to do it for you, then they can do prototype to see if it's feasible. Okay, these are the ways you can cooperate with us. Of course, you can just ask questions, just send us an email, visit our website, and the website, you see the address here. Of course, nobody will remember it, but if you search for UU, Utrecht University Mobility Lab, then this is the first hit. And you also can send mail to Marianne van den Akker, she's the coordinator, and you see her email address there, j.m.vandenakker@uu.nl, pronounced in Dutch. Okay, now I want to give the floor to Roel, and after that I'm available for questions. So Roel, please go ahead.
Thank you, Han. If you could stop sharing your screen for 1 second, then I can hijack.
There's a red button with stop share at the top. Yeah.
Yes. Is this visible to all?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, as Han mentioned already, I'm Roel van den Broek. I'm currently working at NS. And for your years before that, I did my PhD also in cooperation with NS and Utrecht on the concept of train shunting. So I'll give a short introduction into the problem, and then we'll talk about what we did and what the results of the cooperation of Utrecht and NS were. So, yes, so the problem of train shunting at a major station during, for example, the night or at the end of the day, trains come in, but they do not have to depart again immediately because during the night we do not need as many trains as during the day. So what happens then is the surplus that we have is stored at railway yards. And this is a schematic overview. Here we have, for example, Utrecht. This is the major station. And here we have Cartesiusweg, which is a railway yard where we can store many, many trains that are currently not needed. And another example is here. So it's just a bunch of tracks where we can park trains on, and during the day it's not that busy. And during the night it will be completely packed. When I started many, many years ago with my master thesis, the problem that NS had was, okay, we have these trains that arrive during the night and they have to depart again the next morning. So we need to assign these incoming trains to the outgoing trains. We have to move those trains from the station to the railway yards. There we have to park them in the right order, in such an order that they can depart correctly again the next morning. But there are also small maintenance tasks that have to be done, such as, for example, cleaning, internal cleaning, and small repairs. And finally, we have to assign staff members to all of these tasks. So it's quite a complex problem. not easily solved with existing software, and also hard to place with a commercial partner because most of them handed it back because they couldn't solve it. So that's basically the starting point for me. It was in 2015. And there we started with a smaller scope, not the entire railway yard area, but only the railway yards itself. So not the major station, and without staff. Basically because Han met my current manager at NS at the conference, and they were chatting about this problem. The end results were quite nice. We were able to find, basically to solve the problem within minutes with an algorithm, instead of the hours it takes to solve this manually. And this is, by the way, still the case. So planners are solving this problem for every night again, manually, and it takes hours. At the same time, I was doing my master thesis and has contacted Utrecht for a bachelor project. So the software project that Anne mentioned, because in addition to planning manually, they were also planning either on paper or in Excel. Both are not ideal. So the question was, can we create some prototype of a graphical user interface for the planners? And this group of bachelor students did really well. So after half a year, we had well, you see a screenshot of it here. An overview. Planners could actually visualize these yards, planning them, or at least visualize plans. That was the first stage, and all different kinds of views on the planning problem. So that was a big step forward, and also very useful for me, because now I have a way to show planners the results of my algorithm, because that's crucial. If you want to convince someone that what you're doing is good, you need to have a way to visualize it. Well, because these two projects were quite successful, NS offered me to fund my PhD position. I continued working for the next 4 years on related topics such as robustness in planning. We extended the scope from a single railway yard to the complete hub, so the major stations. And we also had a few master projects, one on staff assignments and one on rescheduling in the case of disturbances. Again, we also had another few bachelor projects. One was extending this user interface to a full-blown planning tool where they also could modify the plans and input new IDs. And we had what we call train maintenance and shunting simulator. And that was basically a tool for another research project with, among others, Delft and UvA, for using reinforcement learning how much time do we have? Well, never mind. For reinforcement.
Welcome back, everyone, to the plenary session. We have a 5-minute break coming up. Afterwards, I have an interesting talk show coming up here in the plenary session. And afterwards, we go into new breakout rooms. If you hear this message and you think we can do it better than the first time, dividing into 3 different breakout groups, you can already submit the city of your choice in the chat right now so that we can speed up the process of going into 3 different breakout groups. Be aware that now the cities are not Utrecht, Amsterdam and Nijmegen. The new cities are Wageningen, Delft and Eindhoven. I repeat, Wageningen, Delft, and Eindhoven. You can also abbreviate it W, D, and E. As long as we know which city has your preference, then you can visit the lab in the second breakout room after the talk show. First things first, first 5-minute break. See you back here in 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. We continue now with the talk show on AI and innovation with 3 panelists, 1 live here at the table in 's-Hertogenbosch and 2 digitally remote and at the same time here with us on the screen. With me here in Den Bosch is Rina Joosten. She is the co-founder and CEO of Seedlink Technologies. Rina, welcome.
Thank you.
Could you briefly explain what is the link between Seedlink Technologies, what do they do, and what is the link with AI and innovation?
Yeah, so Seedlink develops deep learning algorithms that can analyze natural language and predict, based on a very simple interview, how likely someone is fitting a certain job or certain company culture.
All right. That is very brief and easy explanation. Even I can follow it.
Yeah.
And it means probably that the chance of an onboarding process being successful is higher once you do this analysis.
Yes, I think it should be much better than using a CV or information in a CV, modeling information from a CV or an unstructured interview.
Yeah, that's so old-fashioned.
It's very old-fashioned, yes.
All right. We continue also to introduce the guests that are joining us remote. Koen Arns, he is the founder and CEO of BlueTick. Koen, can you hear us loud and clear?
I do, thank you.
Great. I can also see you on the screen multiple times. Yes, now I see you once. That's enough. What is BlueTick doing exactly when it comes to AI and innovation? Can you briefly explain to the viewers?
Of course. So with BlueTick, we basically create search technology that actually is able to think along with the end user. So we track the behavior of user of our platform, and we use this behavior to suggest documents that actually fit within the search query of this person. So it's a bit like the techniques that Netflix uses to also suggest movies and series. We also do this, but then with textual documents.
Okay, sounds intriguing. And what kind of textual documents should I think of?
So to start, we focus on the legal industry, where we focus on legal precedents and legal articles. But this is just a starter, and our ambitions are way bigger than this. But this is where we started our journey.
Okay, the sky is the limit, I understand. Of course, as is with AI. And also joining us here is Maurice van Tilburg. You are the Director Access to Capital from TechLeap. Could you also tell us what TechLeap is doing with regards to AI and innovation?
Yeah, hi, I hope you can see me actually. I see a black box here on my side. Does that work?
I can hear you, but I cannot see you yet. But I'm quite sure this can be solved.
Okay, well, I'll solve that later. Maybe AI can help simulate my face. So TechLeap is a foundation in the Netherlands that does, on the one hand, a lot of data research on the evolution of and the bottlenecks that startups face. And at the same time, we try to stimulate and plan interventions and connect the ecosystem in a better way. And for example, currently we are studying the AI ecosystem, and we plan to launch a report the coming week around the status of AI in the Netherlands, and also compared to Europe and other parts of the world.
Okay, thank you very much. And how long have you been with TechLeap this far?
I've been a bit more than a year. I'm actually the director of capital, and since some months I'm also managing director of TechLeap. Before that, I was the CEO of the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, so some people might know me from there. But now focusing really on the startup ecosystem and make sure we organize also enough capital for these companies to scale, for example.
And eventually also to get AI companies also to the Amsterdam exchange, and then the circle is complete.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Good. We ask all of you a few questions that are related to AI and innovation, and I start here in the studio with Rina. What is the relation or confrontation with academia and the startup world when it comes to AI?
You mean confrontation or collaboration?
It depends. What do you see?
Well, we definitely collaborate, and it's very important, I think, if you work on the forefront of innovation, that as scientists, we leverage, of course, knowledge that is out there, and we can also offer large data sets that are interesting, I think, also for research purposes. So we've already, since the beginning of our company, collaborated with leading professors in this area globally. They sit in our scientific board, so they're a large part of what we do, and we collaborate on research. They help us to sometimes outline difficulties, or we outline challenges where they can help us with. So for us, it's a big an important element of our company.
And do you have one example of one specific professor or person that helped you with a specific aspect of your business, for instance?
Yeah, well, we work, for example, in the area of computational linguistics. We're very happy with the support of Professor Dalemans from Antwerp University. We work with Gert-Jan Hofstede, whose father was actually doing this famous research on organizational culture.
At IBM, yeah.
Yeah, at IBM. So we're building upon their research and taking that a step further, yeah.
All right. Koen, how is that for you? How do you collaborate, or do you confrontate academics? And perhaps there's also cooperation.
Yeah, so to start, we have to be realistic. We are quite an early stage startup still. So at this moment, we mostly are consumers of academic research. But I actually just talked to my CEO or CTO about this topic. And we are planning to give back to also the world of research what we discover. Because at this moment, we mainly use the most recent natural language processing techniques, and we apply them in the legal domain. So in this area of application, we find some really interesting results. So we are planning to give back to the research industry in the future. But for now, we are mainly consumers.
All right, and you are actually a spin-off, you not personally, but the company is a spin-off from the JADS playground. So does that mean that you still have ties to JADS?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So we, even though we moved to Amsterdam and Almere in the last couple of years, we do have still quite some close ties with JADS. Some of them in the NLP thesis circles, for example. Some of them, just by collaborating with some more industrial applications as well. So there definitely still are some ties there.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to Maurice. Maurice, I'm curious, as you are Director Access to Capital, if you can also get access to knowledge. I'm sure you do. And how is the relationship between startups and academia in your experience?
So I think overall, and sorry for my camera not working. I don't know what's wrong. It worked all day, so it seems not to work. But anyway, so we do see that, for example, that AI, of course, I mean, has different ways of entering into businesses. It can be through startups, or it's also part of a lot of existing corporate businesses, of course. We do see that overall, I mean, some things go well, so there's clear growth in the amount of startups with AI, and also the ones that take it as a core technology and some more as a side technology of what they do. We do see, for example, that in Europe, the total amount invested is larger than before. It's 8% invested of investment goes to AI type of companies, while 10% of the overall startups actually involve AI. So it's a bit lower than the ratio of startups. At the same time, there is good funding, and the most difficult funding is actually in the areas of where it is more connected to deep tech. So if it's really software-based AI, then generally funding is easier than when it's linked to deep tech. And I think the negative is that, for example, in EU, it's massively growing the funding, but in the Netherlands, it's a bit stagnating. So that's something we definitely need to work on. Make sure there's more money made available for AI startups in the Netherlands.
And Maurice, maybe it's not a true dilemma, but suppose you want to get access to capital or to funding. Would you rather be a startup or a scientist? What is easier?
Well, I think there's a clear thing that we see is that there's a lot of actually the Netherlands, for example, is very good in research and IP and these sort of things, but bringing it to market is still a bit of a challenge. So how do we combine these theoretical academic insights with the insights to actually run a business and also at some point scale? And I think that's something where we really hope that also other business areas and businesses can help with bringing in more of that knowledge. So in that sense, I'm rather a founder than an academic only, because at least as a founder, I can think about bringing everything I do and make impact in the marketplace. But maybe that's a bit of a luxurious position to be in at the moment.
I'm quite sure it is. At the same time, you mentioned the word impact. I would like to take that as a theme also to Rina. When it comes to startups, they're looking, of course, for funding and for knowledge, but eventually this all should also create impact on, for instance, society. Do you see a shift from a focus on funding to a focus on societal impact?
Well, you need both, I think. So you need to have, at least, I mean, being an entrepreneur for quite a while now, I mean, it's not always sunny, right? So the only way to really also keep going is if you have a certain goal, like a certain vision in mind, the impact that you want to create. But at the same time, like Maurice was outlining, you need to make sure that you actually create impact. And if you want to accelerate impact, you need funding. So you need actually both, I think, to continue to be successful and to keep going.
And what is the societal impact of Seedlink in a very bright and sunny scenario?
Well, I think the reason why I was one of the founders, we started the company, was because we see a lot of bias in human decision making. So how could we help with new technology to help people give them information on which they can base fairer decision making about other people? So we've seen now, I mean, across the board at our clients that, for example, they have increased the diversity of their hiring by 33% compared to previous years. So we see a large impact on what we're doing, but that was also the starting point.
Yeah, I see. All right. Thank you very much for this example. It makes it very clear. Koen, when it comes to the legal text, that's your starting point, of course. What impact do you have in mind when it comes to societal impact?
So Bluetick is basically founded by the means of solving a super specific problem, being that at this moment, lawyers cannot access many legal precedents because the current search alternatives are only based on keywords. So a lawyer is forced to translate their complex search question into just a couple of keywords, which actually leaves quite a big pile of data and relevant legal documents unable to be found. So yeah, you can translate this to us improving the access to justice in that case.
Okay, so we have the justice and diversity here, the access to justice. Maurice, we can now see you. That is a nice bonus. Also for you, the question, how does TechLeak TechLeap contribute to societal impact with the support that you provide for the ecosystem?
I think it's not per se only through AI. I mean, we have several themes where we actually focus, and what we've seen, for example, in funding. The funding challenges vary very much per sector. So life science faces different issues than fintech or enterprise software. So I think what we've done last year, for example, was one theme around flattening the climate curve, where we actually invited everyone that contributes to that theme, and we actually brought a lot of investors together and to see actually together with the Dutch government and the Dutch funds how we can make more money structurally available. And of course, I mean, some of those, almost in every segment that we look, AI is there. I mean, if you look at energy, for example, it's not maybe the generation of energy, but the whole idea of storing and routing and efficiently transporting is definitely an area where AI plays a big role. So definitely is something where impact for us and applying technology to make a better world is a key thing. But it's difficult to always directly connect it to AI, but AI plays a large role in several important industries like fintech, making wealth available to many people. I think there's where AI can also play a role. In health, of course, where we see other bottlenecks arising with the access to data, where there might be a struggle for startups to get access to the right data. But also in the area of fintech, for example, and even food, there's a lot of AI actually involved. So I think in that sense, for TechLeap, it's really, we always make sure that we push themes that make a clear impact, and then often AI will be part of that.
All right, Maurice, we stick with you for a moment, and then we reverse to via Koen to Rina with the final question. Unfortunately, because of the lack of time, it would be the question of internationalization. Of course, ICAI is very much Dutch-based and tries to create this Dutch ecosystem. What is the role between this Dutch ecosystem and the international community?
Yeah. I think that the great thing about Holland is so small that I think every startup needs to think international. So, and the Dutch market in itself as a market to sell your product can only maybe be a first step, but shouldn't be your horizon. So I think in that sense, thinking international is important. At the same time, I think it's important for companies actually to think like, okay, where's my logical next market? Does it, for some, it makes sense to pick like a Holland-like next market in Europe, because it's an easier step in terms of regulation and the understanding. And for some really like software type of companies with a clear business model may make a leap directly to the US in terms of market. So I think this is something where also TechLeap has a program like Go Global, where we advise people and bring founders in connection with other founders internationally, for example, and also help with selecting what is their best market. I think that's quite key and sometimes quite tricky for entrepreneurs, and sometimes they're too quick, and then you burn a lot of energy, especially when you start too quick in the US. You end up paying heavily for this in burn rate and not making the right results.
All right, thank you. Koen, what is your take on this question of internationalization?
So I partly agree with Maurice, saying that it's important to aim big, aim high. Especially when pitching our business to investors, yeah, of course they'll want to hear sort of the big story of yeah, what our ultimate goal is. But on the other hand, I do really see the importance of starting small and knowing your customer like extremely well. And in our case, we did it in the Netherlands, and yeah, at this moment, yeah, we do know our Dutch customers, yeah, fairly good actually. So at this moment, we also start to explore possibilities for other countries. But I do think it's really important to start small, and in our case, start locally as well.
Okay, so if I summarize, think big, start small. That is what you contribute. Rina, what is your take on the internationalization?
Well, for us, it was a little bit the other way around. We founded a company in China, actually, where I lived and worked for 8 years before coming to become a Dutch company. So we actually did it the other way around. We now operate in 15 countries. We just opened, or we're planning to open now through partners in Brazil. So we already think very and execute actually quite globally. But of course, that takes a lot of efforts, right? Especially if you look to the science side again, if you have to build up data sets, especially if you deal with language like we do, you have to build up corpus, like language data in different languages with different labels. So it does take planning, it does take a lot of efforts to actually do that if you want to be a global company, and that's always what we intended to do.
All right. Yeah, well, it takes effort. It takes also, well, it is good to think big and to start small. That is the summary of this brief discussion, this talk show that we had. Thank you very much for your contributions, Koen, Maurice and Rina. I hope to talk to you again one other occasion. For now, it's time that we move to the next breakout sessions because they start in less than a minute. You all probably put in the chat which city you chose. It could be either Wageningen this round, Delft or Eindhoven. And our Zoom moderators will make sure that you end up in the city of your choice. After half an hour, I welcome you back here in the chapel in 's-Hertogenbosch. There's no choice there. See you back in half an hour and enjoy your breakout rooms.
Guido, hoor je mij?
Ik hoor je niet zeker, maar...
Ik vraag me even af dat iemand mij de co-host kan maken. Dus dan, tenminste, ik weet niet of ik nu... Of dat heel
Als het goed is, ben je ook co-host.
Even kijken. Ah ja, top. Mooi. Has everyone been divided over the rooms, or should we wait? Because I see some people being unassigned yet.
Yes, I think they are still busy with it, but it can take a few minutes. So I'm not sure how many time we have. So maybe you can just start and then people are still coming in.
All right. Just a second. If I'm correct, everyone can see my screen now.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So welcome everyone to the Wageningen session. First of all, I will tell something about the AI for Agro Food Lab, and afterwards Guido Kamps will tell something about the Precision Nutrition and Health Lab. We will both take around 10 to 15 minutes. I will really urge you to, if you have questions in between, just, I think you can unmute and just shout. I prefer that over a very static presentation. So if you have any questions, just please stop me in the meantime. All right. So who is behind the lab? The scientific director here is Peter Kurgam, and I'm the lab manager for this lab. A bit of the background of the problem of what we're trying to solve. In essence, farming has to change, and this has a lot of different reasons. I'm not going to into depth to all of these right now, but I think you can imagine from the discussions lately what these can be. So the nitrogen issue, too much water, too dry, but you can even see it with the boeren on the Malieveld that there are challenges we are facing. So these can be summarized as trying to strive for optimum efficiency. So with farming, we want to have the optimum efficiency, and you get this paradigm more or less. That you get monoculture, everything gets bigger, larger, optimized for cheap and predictable food production, which means larger machines, high inputs, but also high overall losses, and a relatively simple technology. So even in the Netherlands, where the Netherlands is relatively small, it's still the same issue. So a lot of monoculture and a lot of big homogeneous species in cattle, but also on lands. So the current approach here to trying to tackle that is that we're looking into precision agriculture, amongst others. But and within precision agriculture, we see several different things. But most of them, I will not go into all of these points here on the screen, are really about sensing and reacting technologies. So reacting to the current situation and optimizing for the current time and space. So like saying nutrients, water, and weeding, all optimizing for the current situation. Also, of course, autonomous vehicles, but autonomous vehicles that are enormous. So enormous tractors and enormous vehicles that have deleterious effects on the land. The consequence of that is that a lot of these technologies do not really solve the actual problem that's behind it. Also, you have a lot of trade-offs. So do you want to optimize your gains? Then you have to have specific inputs. You need to increase specific inputs. For example, nitrogen, but it has a lot of trade-offs. So it's not really a holistic view. But also for the social aspects, it can be quite troublesome. Because if you continue in the current way we are farming, then basically all the technologies and everything that's developed is for the larger farmers, and none of it is really beneficial for the smaller farmers or the biological farmers in that sense. So something about the lab, because that's of course what we're here to talk about. In short, it's a collaboration between the 4TU, Radboud, One Planet, and a lot of industry partners. I will come to that later on. It's located and coordinated in Wageningen. It's officially the project has started, but the kickoff, because we want to have the physical kickoff, will be is planned somewhere in June. So there aren't a lot of results yet, but I can tell you, of course, what the plan is. What we're doing is it's about the system change for a new ecology-based and resource-efficient growth with high-tech in agriculture. Within this lab, we work on several different topics. These are 3 topics that we have identified for this lab, which is smart crop and animal sensing, intelligent control and decision-making, and robotic handling. In these topics, work 8 PhD, 2 postdocs, and 5 PhD-Engs, again, distributed among the various partners. The partners, as I said, there are quite a lot of industry partners, most of them represented by One Planet, but here you get an overview. I'm not sure, by the way, if the slides will be available to you afterwards, but I believe it will be recorded to Zoom. So if you want to, you can also find them on the website. So if you want to see more in detail what all of these parties do, you can find it over there. So it's a rather large consortium in that sense, maybe a little bit different from the current labs that are running, but very interesting nonetheless. What we want to do with this lab is go from this image that I just showed you to a new paradigm. So with this, we want to have more diverse production with complex interactions. So no, not large solutions, but smaller ones that really fit the situation, taking into account ecology and also biodiversity, for example. So this means intelligent, small-scale, more supporting technology. For example, like the robots you see on the right corner. Leading also to changing market dynamics. So we get a lot of different, different aspects so you will not have, basically, you will not have monoculture, but you have various different culture, strokenteelt, like we say in Dutch. And it has a lot of interesting aspects. The topic itself, because I can imagine some of you will be very interested in the technical aspect here. So for smart crop and animal sensing, by the way, I'm looking at the time that I have. For what was the amount of time when we do have to get back in the general room?
I think you got half an hour for, yeah, and then, but we get a message when time's almost over.
Yeah, just to make sure that I don't have to cut Guido off very soon. So, all right. Smart crop and animal sensing, it also gave you some time to read what's on the slide, because I'm not going to read it all to you. But in essence, smart crop and animal sensing, it's applied in 3 different use cases: in horticulture, dairy farming, and arable farming. And it's really about sensors and optimizing data that come out of it with the right algorithms in that sense. Intelligent control and decision making. That's really creating models that take into account the current situation. Also, of course, again, with sensors, and can do some kind of prescriptive planning for the farm in the end. So there are machine learning techniques that are used on that end. Robotic handling. I know there's, of course, a lot of discussion with robotics AI. It's very close. It's not, well, there might be a lot of opinions. But in this case, we develop or we describe robotic handling as the algorithms that we really need to steer the robots. So the main strategies that we want to follow with this lab also is what I said before, that biodiversity is taken into account. But the interesting part here is that we do not want to push technology in a sense. We want to have it really as a supportive part of the solution. So if there's an ecological solution already available, a principle behind it, we do not want to replace that with a technological solution. So it's more of a symbiosis between those two. And that's very important if you want to move from the current practice of farming towards a new practice of farming, to make sure that we have enough food in the future, but also nutritious and healthy food, on which we will talk later in the other lab. I see I forgot a slide about knowledge transfer and also about how we do this in the lab, but in essence, we work very close together in this lab also with StartLife, the accelerator on campus, with the entire ecosystem on campus. The lab will have a physical location also soon, in which all of the PhDs can come together, and all researchers working in the lab, closely in collaboration, of course, with industry. But the interesting part really is that also all the researchers can take part in the StartLife accelerator program. If they want to test an idea or have an idea, or they will get trained basically also in entrepreneurship skills, and really encouraged if they want to create a spin-off or do something else with it. Here you find a link. There's more information there. I see that I forgot my email, but that's also findable in this link. Otherwise, it's yannick.vangelder@word.nl. Thank you for your attention. Guido, shall we? Well, maybe first, are there some other questions already?
I think my presentation will be much shorter, so we can also do a combined question and answer session.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then, Guido, we can move on to your presentation, and afterwards we can take all the questions that are present. I do believe, Guido, you have some kids in the background, so if I need to take over, just let me know. I will stop sharing.
Yeah, I think I can just take it over.
Yeah, perfect.
Now I can. Yeah, perfect. So welcome everybody. Now the only thing that I wanted to, because I had something right in the chat, but now I cannot access my chat anymore. Okay, I'll put that link to the lab and my email address in the chat so you can look at the lab later on if you want to. So my name is Jheronimus. I'm a researcher at Wageningen University and at One Planet Research Center. And this is our One Planet ICAI lab for precision health, nutrition and behavior. I will give a very short introduction because the scope of the lab is very broad. And I'll just give a general introduction, and then at the end I'll tell you some super duper cool stuff, at least that I find cool. That's one of the, like, one part of one work package, but then it gives an illustration of what we're doing. So the idea is that if we are able to give people more accurate, personalized advice on diet and healthy lifestyle, they will become healthier, but that advice is now often given by gathering data and giving feedback by a human. And humans are expensive, they make errors, they are very expensive to train, it takes a while before they're ready. I have a baby from 6 months old now. If I want to make a dietitian out of him, it will take at least 24 years, and maybe AI can do that much more quickly. So we can use sensors to monitor people, we can use sensors to monitor behavior. That's all not new if you're in the area of AI. But it is very difficult in the area of food. So that's why we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition. The partners of our lab are very diverse. So we have people from the food industry, we have people from Artemis, for example, who are in sensors, Salute, who is in giving people app-based health advice, connected care, creating solutions for the healthcare industry. So very different, diverse group of partners with whom we are very happy. Our lab is divided into 4 work packages. So the first is on specifically dietary assessment, dietary coaching. Second on monitoring cognitive decline and also performing interventions. Third is on the chatbot, so real natural language processing, and how to get, for example, for elderly people, a chatbot that can help you eat well or ask you how you're doing before a human needs to intervene. And as lastly, orthostatic hypertension detection using wearable sensor technology. Now, this is an overview of all the people who work there. So you can see if you see some familiar faces if you want to hook up with any members of the lab. And after I stop sharing, I'll put my email and link to the lab in the chat so you can take a look later. So we have a diverse group of about 8 PhDs, 2 postdocs, and a good group of supervisors. I'm going to explain to you a little bit about work package work package 1 very shortly. And my question for you is, if you were asked by a dietitian what you ate last Wednesday, so not yesterday, but the Wednesday the week before, last week Wednesday, how well would you know what you had to eat the whole day? It would be lovely to hear it for real. You can also put it in chat, but then I can't see it. But I'm just going to guess it takes, you're like thinking, was it Wednesday? Was it a special day? Did I have my usual breakfast? Then let's imagine. So can I ask somebody who's still with us and not secretly getting coffee? Can somebody answer, what did you eat for breakfast last week Wednesday?
Breakfast I will know, because that will be yogurt with muesli, which I eat every day.
Ah, perfect. And so Marcel, thank you for answering. But how many grams of yogurt and how many grams of muesli? And was it full fat?
No idea.
Full fat yogurt?
No, of course not.
Half or skimmed yogurt?
0%.
0% even, skier, yeah. Or so. Okay, and then you, like, a dietitian will ask you all these annoying questions. Was it muesli? Was it Albert Heijn Huismerk, or was it like fancy muesli with nuts and blah blah? So it's very complicated because we need that information to get together how many calories you ate or how many selenium you got into your system. It is quite scary, I feel, to think that all the nutrition advice we give in the world is based on studies that use this method on what people eat. So the next time you read a nu.nl article on nuts are healthy because they prevent Alzheimer's or whatever, think about it, that it's all based on how well Marcel remembers whether there are nuts in his muesli or not. It's very difficult for these types of things. So we want to make that a little bit easier. And the way in which we're doing that is, so here in general, food intake is associated with all of these very beneficial and important points, not only for healthy people, but also for people in care situations or in hospitals. But we actually don't know what people are consuming, even if you serve it to them. So interestingly enough, in for example, a care situation, the person here in the blue apron is not a nurse. She is she's in most hospitals, she is from the food service staff, which means she has no medical training, or at least very little medical training. And she's also not watching whether participants actually eat what they are being served. So we have no clue what these people are eating. Now, one of the solutions we're having in our ICAI lab is using a smart tray. So you can see the system at the top right, and it's a dining tray which has all these smart sensors in it, and it can actually record what you're eating real time. And on the right bottom, you'll see the graph of the weight changes, so you can see what is on the plate and how quickly bites are taken and are consumed. Now, that is all nice and dandy, but we're trying to expand that even with something I think is more cool, namely this last point, the hyperspectral analysis of macronutrient contents of food. So what we're doing is we're taking this space bazooka and pointing it at food, and that allows us to create graphs like this. And this actually, even if you do not believe it, with some machine learning magic, will allow us to calculate macronutrient content, so fats, protein, water content, fiber content of the things that are on your plate. Now, that's all not done yet, but that is the sort of stuff that we are developing so that we can monitor what's on your plate. Now, if we combine that with AI on how you're chewing, so here you see my face with some blue dots, so we can track your mouth and see what's happening. So we can, for example, see whether you're taking a bite or chewing. If we combine that with our hyperspectral analysis on what you're eating, we have a full picture of what you're eating, and Marcel will not have to remember, but he can just tell me he could just load from his app, like, oh, last week Wednesday, I had this specific muesli with this nutritional content, and that's what I had. And that was it. Now I'm going to see if I can stop sharing some. Yeah, stop sharing. So the links in the chat, my email's in the chat, and let's hear questions for both labs, please. And then I'll mute so you don't have to hear my kids anymore.
Are there questions?
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Yes, it is something that I also noticed in the presentation of Yannick, and also from Guido. Who is going to decide what is healthy for you, or what is the best ecological approach for farming? There are also different theories about it, and I don't think people agree on it. So how do you agree what is you have to choose? Or are you going to implement all the different theories? How are you going to deal with it?
I can answer that for my part, and then Yannick can think about his answer.
I can think about my answer.
So the joke I always make, because I myself am not a dietitian, is that if you ask 5 dietitians what is healthy, you'll get 6 answers. Yeah. My response to that is it's going to be a little bit of a letdown, because I wish I could just tell you have to eat this. But it all starts with getting better data. So even if you want to know what is healthy, we need better data, but also if you want to give people feedback, whatever paradigm you subscribe to on health, if you want to maintain that paradigm, that eating paradigm, then you need feedback, you need data. So I'm more interested in gathering better data than fighting with vegans over whether or not we should be eating meat. So that is going to be my very simple answer.
Okay.
Thank you, Guido. I had some time to think about my answer. It's sort of similar. The only perhaps main difference is that you can have some kind of image in a very regional area. So you can say, for this very, very small specific area, we think this type of farming might work best. Of course, you still have a lot of different variations, but I think it really comes down to a solution like that. And then reaching some kind of consensus among what's best for that specific regional area. Of course, for this lab right now, we're looking for the situation in the Netherlands, which might be or will be probably completely different if you calculate or make an analysis of a farming system that should work in Spain, for example. But yeah, even within the Netherlands, it's difficult. So it basically comes down to talking with a lot of experts and finding some kind of consensus.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and one thing I can add in the chatbot line of research is that for example, the elderly, the issue is mostly that they're eating too little. They're eating too little protein, but they're eating too little overall. So then it's nice to have non-personal interventions so that they remember to eat. And that is obviously not dependent on what specific diet paradigm you're invested in. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Guido, when you were asking me about my food on Wednesday morning, so I can imagine that I have a high spectral camera on my phone, and I would make a picture of what I'm eating. But how would you implement the computer vision part that you were indicating? I mean, I don't expect in the morning that I will be looking at my camera all the time to see how I'm eating.
No, that's a very good question. So the problem with this line of research, in my view at least, is that all of this research on chewing or biting or facial analysis, it all comes from groups that first trained in emotion recognition. And because they wanted to do emotion recognition, they needed a full frontal camera. And you can imagine you're not eating very comfortably if you have a camera like this.
No.
So we're actually, and so all the models I've seen that are AI based are based on models like this. So what we're currently doing, super secret, so don't tell anybody, is we're moving the camera to like a side oblique angle, so I can decide it from like the movement of the jaw, which alleviates all the issues with privacy, because I can apply a filter so that I don't even see the face anymore. I just see movement of an edge. And nobody's doing that really. And I feel like that is a possible solution in real life, because with edge computing, but also with ubiquitous sensing or a phone lying on the table, we can then have you enjoy your breakfast and not have the feeling, at least, that you're being videotaped. So it's not going to solve all the issues, but we're looking at it from that perspective. And apologies that I abused you as an example.
No problem, no problem.
By the way, we are being videotaped now, so your super secret part is a bit out of the window.
Okay, luckily it's not that secret. Nobody is.
Any other questions?
We can also suggest, because I discussed this with the organization beforehand on Monday, we are allowed to just give you 5 minutes to get a cup of coffee before you go back to the main room. So we don't have to fill up the time. So if everybody's happy with the answers, then we can just take a 5-minute break, stretch your legs, get a cup of coffee, and we'll see you in the main room. Is that okay?
I think
that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, good. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you all.